What's going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you guys another Phantom Knight deck profile. So I wanted to go ahead and showcase for you guys the formula that I've been playing for the current format. I know it's been a little while since I said I was going to go ahead and upload another list, but I wanted to make sure that whatever I was playing was pretty optimal. I've spent the month actually playing the league at my store. We do like a store championship. I've explained it before. For anyone who's new to the channel, I'll explain again. We pretty much go ahead and we run tournaments throughout the month. Every time you get a win, you get a certain amount of points. Losses count obviously as less. Draws count as, in the middle. And basically whoever has the most points, top 4 of the month out of all the players in the league for Yu-Gi-Oh, we get a box. And then we're also entered into the championship that we do. I think it's like half a year or twice a year, something like that. Where if you, made top 4 for any of the months prior, you're able to participate in the tournament for bigger prizing. It's a free tournament, but obviously the local tournaments are not. But yeah, so this month I went ahead and actually was participating in that to make sure that I can, get my way into the league. Because unfortunately, I don't really have the time these days to go ahead and play it at every locals, but I've been pretty much focused on that. So I've been, grinding away on Phantom Knights, making sure I had the most optimal build. And yeah, I do like the way that I'm currently playing it now. I think this is pretty solid. I'll give some explanations as to why, as well as go ahead and showcase some of the combos that I've been doing currently, trying to stay away from any gimmicks. I was running things like Ophion and stuff, which are really nice and are actually very good against a lot of the decks in the current format. But unfortunately, it does require you to play, more bricks. It does require you to actually have less access to other cards in the extra deck. So I wanted to make sure that I was playing this deck as optimal as possible, especially since this is more of a competitive list. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. I'll start with the Phantom Knight cards and we'll get into the deck profile. All right, as I said before, we'll go ahead and get into the deck profile. We'll start with the Phantom Knight cards. So as usual, we're still running the 3 Torn Scale, 3 Boots, 2 Cloak, 1 Ragged Gloves, no Stained Greaves, 3 Fog Blade, 1 Wing. So the reason why I'm playing it like this is because we're playing this deck to be as optimal as possible. As I said, Torn Scale is actually a 1.5 card starter. So we are focusing on Torn Scale as being a primary resource, in terms of being able to set up our end board. Because again, there's a lot of hand traps in the format. So going first, we want to make sure that we have as many options as possible. 9 times out of 10, whenever I activate Water Enchantress, my opponent hits me with an Ash, or even Mseti. So it's like, you want to make sure that if you are going to lose access to your, adventure package or any other packages, that the Phantom Knight package that you're playing is, the best way to play or is as optimal as possible. Unfortunately, Stained Greaves didn't come up enough for me. I know a lot of times you open up these two, you're able to send this, get Stained Greaves to kind of keep playing. But since we are playing the Burning Abyss monsters, you don't need that. You're pretty much focusing on just, getting to a solid end board and being able to play through cards like Nibiru, which is, obviously very popular at the moment, as well as other hand traps. You want to make sure that you have options. So, playing cards like Appaloosa are very good for being able to set up your board or even for your end board. So I felt like this was the most optimal. I don't like playing less than 3 Torn unless you're playing like some kind of gimmicky, sub options. But otherwise, this feels very solid. The 4 traps, and then, the most important names here. So again, I wouldn't change this ratio personally, but, everyone has their own preference. So that's it for the Phantom Knight stuff. Then we get into the adventure stuff. We've got 3 Water Enchantress, 1 Griffin, 3 Right, 1 Draco Bag, 1 Faithful. So since we are playing the BA monsters, I am playing 3 Right. I feel like it's important to have 6 copies of the starting cards of each engine. So that's why we're making sure we optimize the 3 Torn Scale. We've got 3 Water Enchantress, 3 Right. We want to make sure that we're opening this because we are playing the Burning Abyss monsters. Cherubini is most likely going to be sending to the graveyard, graph. So we want to make sure that we, have optimization here. So 3 and 3 to have 6 total, I felt was very important. And then we have 3 Mseti, 1 Horus of the Happy, 1 Horus of the Duomontif, our Blessing, and then 3 King Sark. So I wouldn't touch any of the ratios. Again, we have our 6 to kind of facilitate playing the engine, and then we have the 2 bricks. Unfortunately, I like playing them. They're bricks. Generally, if you're playing Phantom Knights, you're very aware that most of the deck is very bricky. But, I like playing these just because of the fact that, again, this allows us to be able to play. It also gives us protection from hand traps if we're able to go into number 90, which has come up quite a bit for me. And King Sark is just insane with the Phantom Knight engine. Then we've got, as I said, our BAs, so more bricks, our Graph and our Sir. They're very important. I do like them a lot in this current format because of the fact that we are able to extend as much as possible without having to overcommit to our resources. So because of the fact that we just need 2 level 3s to go into this, it doesn't require us to have to do a lot. Even just the Speedroid Teratop into Graph allows us to be able to do a lot. So the idea of having access to, you know, all of this is just very good. And you know, they are bricks and it does suck seeing them, but they're very strong when you're setting up your board and you're playing into a board. 3 Teratop, 1 Takitan board, self-explanatory. Since it came off the list, it's been utterly insane. I love it. Then we're playing 3 Imperm, 3 Droplet, and 3 Talents. So I wanted to maximize as much as possible our ability of having cards going first and second. So I felt like these were the best ones. I'm not a fan of hand traps, but these in themselves do, you know, very particular things that you need them to. So if you're playing against a Snake Eye engine, you know, you have access to Imperm. Sometimes 1 Imperm shuts them down because of the fact they are playing so many hand traps. Or you save this for the Apo. If you see them leading with, like, you know, the Black Witch, then you want to go ahead and just obviously hold this, save this for the Appaloosa, so that way you have an answer to their Apo. And then obviously Droplet's Droplet. And Talents allows us to be able to play going first or second. So if we get hit with, you know, an Ash going first, we're able to draw 2 or find more ways of being able to, you know, just take a look at your opponent's hand, rip something. So yeah, I felt like this was important. In the deck total, as far as the main board, is 45. Again, we're playing a lot of bricks, so it's nice to be able to kind of cycle through, you know, and have a little bit more space in the deck so that you're not, you know, drawing into your bricks and stuff. But generally 45 has felt very solid, and the deck has felt very solid like this. So yeah, I wouldn't change much of it. I mean, again, obviously, you know, the going first and going second cards are our personal preference as always, but generally we want to keep things as they are. 1 Leviair and 2 Breaksword for our rank 3s. Leviair has come up quite a bit, especially because our end board of the Torrent Scale being able to just pitch a card, you know, send Cloak. This allows you to be able to make your Appaloosa while still having recursion. So that's the toughest thing, is that if we do brick heavy and we are just focused on just playing Torrent Scale and our opponent lets us play, we're ending on Appo, double Fog Blade with recursion. So that's the important part. So we're playing, you know, the standard ones there. I opted to play Nightmare because, again, of that situation where if your opponent does hand trap you and you're stuck with, like, Griffin, you have to negate with Griffin, and you have the token, you're able to make IP and Evil Swarm Nightmare, which is really nice. So it's better to give yourself more options than just to leave the token on board, because if they have evenly, then you're just pretty much, like, in a bad spot. Because then you have no way of getting rid of it unless you force your own IP or SP to banish your token, which feels really bad. Then Raiders Knight, Arc Rebellion. I mean, it's just standard. Just wins every game that you need it to. Number 90 and Vampire. I would still play both. Again, number 90 has come up quite a bit. Even on the clapback. I mean, a lot of times you set up your board, they're not able to deal with it. So then you just have 2, and you don't want to obviously play into things like Nib. You know, so being able to make this is nice, or starting with this and then, you know, Water Enchantress and trying to play is really nice as well. And Zombie Vampire is just nuts for this deck. I'm playing Typhon over Zeus. Zeus very rarely ever comes up, because 9 times out of 10, if you have the Zeus, you're probably not killing your opponent, and this kind of puts you in that same spot. But the difference with this is that you can also put this over certain cards, and it allows you to be able to keep them. So, for example, if you know, use the Fog Blade to revive a Breaksword, you know, you can put this on top. If you use it to revive your Bardiche, you can put this on top. So there are situations where you are able to kind of like cycle through and keep certain cards that would normally be banished. But I do like this because, you know, it stops the 30k or higher monsters. So in some situations, you are able to play around certain cards, you know, like in the Branded matchup or Chimera matchup, things like that. Where this comes up, where, you know, as like the final removal, you're able to just kind of plop it on board, remove something, and then following turn, you know, they have to play around this. Whereas Zeus is kind of easier to play around because most decks float right now and are reliant on graveyard. So I didn't really like that too much. I mean, Zeus is only really good against like the lab matchup and stuff like that, but I feel like this is just better in terms of what you wanted to do. Our Cherubini, obviously one of the best cards in the deck. IP Masquerena, SP Little Knight, Dark Charmer. I would never not play Dark Charmer. This card comes up so much, especially when you're trying to resolve Vampire and you don't hit a name or a dark. Sometimes you have to like use whatever you have on board to go into dark, then Mseti into this, and then Bardiche. So you definitely need this. Bardiche, and then we're playing the Appaloosa. So this is what we're playing for the Link package. I love Appaloosa right now. I think Appaloosa is actually very, very good, especially, again, We're focusing on having as many options of playing the game as possible. And that's why I feel like I've had so much success with this list. Aside from bricking, again, this list has been very successful because of the fact that we are giving ourselves as many options to play the game, despite having bricks. Every line kind of gets us to something very detrimental. And so, being able to use as minimal resources as possible to make a strong end board, in my opinion, is very important. So that's it for the extra deck. We'll go and get into the sideboard so I can show you guys pretty much what I've been considering or playing for my sideboard, which has very much not changed at all since I've been playing this month. Cosmic Cyclone at 3. I think it's important, especially for the Floodgates and for the Tempai matchup, to deal with the field card. If you find yourself having issues with that, which, I mean, I don't, just because of the fact that Fog Blade, you can use it under the field card. And then, most of the other cards that you do have are interruptions like Apple and stuff that, you don't really care too much about as far as forcing your opponent. Plus the Fog Blade, Bardiche, Pop, deals with the field card anyways. Lightning Storm Harpies, very good. D-Barrier's insane right now because all these decks just do like one thing except for Snake Eyes. So this pretty much solves that problem. Call By for going first, Anti-Spell for going first, Barbar for time, and then 3 Droll. So I was playing 3 Droll because there are certain decks that if you do Droll them, it hurts a lot. Melodious, Chimera, decks like that where you just don't want them to just play. Because this deck pretty much just says, all right, play the game and I'll break your board, which I've had no problem breaking almost just about any board. But Droll just kind of simplifies certain game states so that you're not having to deal with too much. So I do like this going first and second, to be honest. Even going first, a lot of times, if I don't need this, I'll side these 3 in with these 2. And maybe 1 Cosmic, taking out the Droplets and the Imperms. So, like, you have more options. But I like this because, doing your full end board and then having this in hand shuts out your opponent. It stops them from being able to search cards. If they pot and they hit something, you're just like, okay, Droll. Now their engine doesn't work the way they want it to, so they have a harder time playing into a board, which is very nice. But yeah, I think Droll is actually probably just the best hand trap in my opinion at the moment. Only a hand trap that I would play personally, just because, again, I don't play a lot of hand traps, but this is the one that I feel like was most necessary. I tried Nib, didn't like it. This was Dark Ruler at 1.2, but again, didn't like it because we kind of already have a very great way of being able to break a board. But again, I wanted more options. And again, for those decks that D-Berry doesn't shut them out, you have Anti-Spell, Call By, and Droll, which is very nice. And then, our time card. So, but yeah, that was the deck. I wanted to go ahead and showcase for you guys, what I'm playing right now for this month. And then I'll go ahead and show you guys what I was referring to with some of the quick combos, just so that way you guys have an idea as far as what I'm doing, how I'm doing my end boards. So we'll go ahead and show that for you guys. And again, it's nothing crazy. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Okay. So just to get started, most of what we're doing is very reliant on what you're opening, which is very important. And that's the reason why we are playing everything mostly at 3, is because we want to make sure that we maximize our options of being able to see most of these cards, or to be able to set up the way that we want to. So as I was saying before, Torrent Scales is a 1-card starter. So if we do try to Water Enchantress or we're not able to get to right, then we would just play the game as normal. We would use his effects, discard to send Cloak. Cloak would get us our boots. So banish Cloak. Cloak gets us boots. Boots specials into Cherubini. Cherubini will send Graph. Graph will get Sir. Then we'll link these 2 away for Bardiche. And then we'll go ahead and Sir, bring back Cherubini. We'll use Bardiche effect to go ahead and set. So we'll just make those disappear. We'll go ahead and set a Fog Blade, and then we'll send our Ragged Gloves. You can send Cloak for additional follow-up, but I like this better just because we're still going to end up pitching a card anyways off the boots. So boots, we'll add, or we don't have to. I mean, technically we could just do this. We can just banish. I mean, that's why I normally send that, just because it's a little bit easier to do this. Like, you can banish, send this, banish, summon, trigger Torrent Scale. So that way you have access to double Fog Blade, as I said before. That's that. Overlay these 2 for Leviair. And then you have all of your recursion. So Leviair will bring back Cloak. Cloak, give it a boost, and then make Apo. So just with one, it's like a 1.5 card starter basically. Gives you Apo into double Fog Blade, because then we just do boots, grab Fog Blade. And that doesn't include obviously whatever we open. So it's like a 1.5 card combo, I guess you would consider it, because you only need a card to discard. Gets you into Apo with 3 material and then 2 Fog Blade, which is really good. I mean, even if they aren't able to answer the Apo, you've got double fog blade plus recursion. You've got everything left in the graveyard, your cloak and your Torn for next turn to easily just, you know, play the game all over again. So I like that a lot. And then, you know, of course, if you wanted to instead, you could overlay the two instead of Leviator, go into Breaksword, pop for IP. So then now you have IP double fog blade plus Cherubini as the monster you would use if you didn't need to bring back the Breaksword yet. So same concept. I mean, again, you have the option of going into Apo or IP with Fogblade pop, and they create the same amount of interactions because IP and SP is 2, the pop is 3, Apo with 3 markers, 2 Fogblades. So you still get the same amount of interactions. It just depends on the matchup. If you know what you're playing against, and that's like the simplest way you're able to set up a board or play the game, then in my opinion, you obviously pick whatever route works better. Do you need a banish plus removal with a pop, or do you need, you know, monster effect negates with double Fogblade? And I mean, that's basically 5 negates, but also, I mean, Fogblade says that your opponent can't attack, so it also eliminates the idea that your opponent can actually swing at you or, you know, attack you. So the other way that I was, you know, obviously playing it was Speedway Terratop. And again, depending on what you open, if you open up the right, you can set it up. And it's very situational. I mean, generally, depending on what you have access to, pretty much entails what you're going to set up. So like if you open up this, you can send the, you know, you can send Water Enchantress. Or if you open up like something like this where it's Terratop at any Phantom Knight name, then I always go for the Water Enchantress because you're just basically doing Terratop into Taki Tomborg, these two into Cherubini, and then Cherubini will send Water Enchantress to get you right. So now you have these in hand. Water Enchantress ran away from me. Those in hand, and then you would just do right. You would activate for the token. Get your Faithful, and then I wouldn't summon because you don't want to play into nibs, so you would just activate the effect to search for a monster, discard whatever other card you have in hand if you can get rid of one, or if you want to be risky, you can just normal summon the Torn Scales and try it, but I generally wouldn't. And then discard a random card, activate the summon, search for the equip spell, so you have this, and then you would commit your normal, link those two away, Bardiche effect, Fogblade, and send Cloak, Cloak banish, add, special, effect, pitch, send Ragged Gloves, special, overlay, and do our normal end board. Because this is obviously easier because, you know, you don't need to Apo because we're not going for the Cherubini. So effect to bring them back as level 4s, link them away for IP, banish for the last trap. So basically ending on this, and I do like wings because if you are playing against Tempai, you do have the ability to just grab wings instead of a Fog Blade. So you have it like this. So if they go Lightning Storm, you pretty much just Fog Blade. You can just use Phantom Knight Wing on the IP Masquerena. So that way, so I would always summon it like this. So then that way, if you're in a situation like this where they Lightning Storm call it, you let this die, you wings this, and then once you Fog Blade, if they get rid of it, then you're able to just Fog Blade, bring this back, wings, bring back the Breaksword, and then you're still able to pop something, and then you can IP Masquerena these two away for SP. So give you the option to still be able to do that, but also have like destruction protection. But generally, this would be our end board. We would just go ahead and end on, you know, normal end board of our 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interruptions, not including what we had in hand. So that's just, you know, a way of being able to go about it depending. And like I said, these are all contingent on how your hands and how you open, because you do have different options and you are able to pretty much pivot based on what kind of hand trap your opponent hits you with, or based on how your hands are opened. I definitely, again, wanted to showcase that for you guys, give you guys my formula for what I've been playing competitively for this month. Is working out really well. Even for our league, I mean, I had one day where I went 2-2, and that was the day where my opponents were just drawing crazy. Yeah, I was getting cooked by Tempai and Snake Eye. Yeah, Snake Eye opened up Droll, Nib, and Black Witch 2 games in a row. And then against Tempai, he opened up double Droplet, or opened up Droplet both games. Games 2 and 3, he opened up Droplet and the Quick Play spell. So he was able to play through Ophion, and that's when I decided to stop playing it because it was very bricky. I was having issues where I was just seeing cards I didn't want to see. My action deck wasn't optimal. I was giving myself less options because I was playing the Gaga Magician, and I was playing Ophion for that combo line. So I decided to change it up and make it more competitive and make it more focused on just playing the game as we should. But again, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the list. Hope you guys enjoy my take or my formula on the deck. Jump in the comment section below as always. Let me know what you guys think. Your transformations, your concepts. So that we can go ahead and continue to make transformations to the deck and make it as optimal as possible. I love seeing that other people are actually playing the deck as well. It's had some great success even at regional, national, and state championship tournaments. So definitely keep grinding, guys, and hopefully we can continue to put Phantom Knights back on the map where it belongs. So as always, like and subscribe, and I appreciate you guys.